I'm Shay Russell for mining.com.au, and joining me today is Mike Rosenstreich, the chair of Helix Resources. Mike, how are you today?
Hello, Shay. I'm really well, thank you.
So you should be really well. Fantastic news coming out from Helix Resources today, an oversubscribed placement. Tell me, is the Cobar Basin hot again?
The Cobar Basin is hot. I think it's been warm and sizzling for a while. It's had its sort of moments, but clearly the copper price, the copper environment, the electrification story is driving copper demand. And the Cobar Basin is a prolific copper producing area. They've been mining there for over 160 years. And then we had some corporate action in the Cobar Basin with the acquisition of the CSA mine by Metals Acquisition Corp for about $1 billion. And that sort of really sparked interest. And that acquisition is really interesting to us because the CSA mine is a long-lived, large-scale deposit of high grade. And the guys there are talking about taking that production up around from 40,000 tonnes a year. The reserve resource grades are 4 to 5% copper. So it's a wonderful analogy for us in our exploration pursuit of similar styles of deposit. And that fundraising that you were just congratulating us on, and thank you for that, heavily oversubscribed. I think the people who were invested in that are really captivated by the opportunity that hopefully we've been presenting over the last few months in particular of making another CSA-like discovery. And I think that's what's driven the interest.
Now, you were only seeking $2.3 million, but I believe this has been oversubscribed and you're actually going to open it up for another $500,000. But as part of this capital raising, which is unusual for most explorers, I might add, you have made sure current shareholders were front and center when it came to raising this money, weren't you?
Yes. Look, I think just taking a step back, there are different times when you raise money in different ways. At the end of the day, all company directors, particularly of small companies, will say, you always take the money. But in the past, for example, we did a large placement via predominantly to Australian institutions, and we raised a large sum of money, $11 million through that. And the reason was we needed that money to sustain us through a range of activities, not much of which wasn't going to be particularly newsworthy. The regional geochem type work, regional geophysical work. It's interesting in a news flow sense, but doesn't necessarily drive the share price. And so when you do lots of small capital raisings, you're always looking for a catalyst for the share price. But we needed to, one, refresh the register then, and we needed to raise a large sum of money because we wanted to undertake proper, methodical, regional scale exploration aimed at making large discoveries. Now, in this particular case, our shareholders have warned the declining share prices, etc. And we just felt as a board that it was time to make sure they had the first chance to minimize any dilution and to participate in the raising. And, I use that phrase, get on board the copper Powerball. And it's really exciting. And I'm very pleased that very many of them chose to do exactly that. What typically happens, and I'm sure you know this, companies make a placement and it's very transactional. The share price gets driven down. The placement price is really predicated on the market movements and the share price gets driven down to that. And then maybe the management or the board looks towards the existing share register and says, oh, maybe we'll do an SPP or we'll do a little bit for them as well. But they're not the priority in that case. And we were lucky in this particular case that we did give them priority. They gave us the support. And now, the challenge, Shay, is that we've got to deliver with the drill bit. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it's funny. That takes me exactly to what I want to talk about next. Now, most people might not feel this way, but I personally love it. Explorers that are spending money. How are we going to prove this up with the drill bit?
Well, thank you for that opportunity to talk about spending money, because if people look through our quarterly report, they will see that around 80% of our money actually goes into exploration. Our corporate costs and everything are at a very low level. I think 80% spend on exploration puts us in the very bottom quartile of people that are spending on the corporate sense. So I'll just take the opportunity to make that boast on behalf of the company. What this raising was about was enough funds to drill test some key targets that have been generated and really come to the fore in recent months. And in particular, a large geophysical anomaly that we reported, I think, first off in March, where we've got a lookalike for our Canbelego mineral resource, which is about 1.8 million tonnes at 1.7% copper with 32,000 tonnes of copper in it. That copper resource is interesting, but it's not compelling. It just lacks scale. It's lovely grade, but it lacks scale. And imagine we've got this IP anomaly a couple of hundred meters to the west of it. It's twice as big, fatter, and we modeled it down to 400 meters. It looks like it. Imagine if we can validate that there's copper mineralization there as well, and then suddenly that whole copper resource in that area starts to really blossom and grow.
Now, Mike, I had the privilege of speaking to the company's incoming MD, Kylie Prendergast, last week at the Resources Roundup in Sydney. So does this mean that you've moved on from MD to taking on the chair role?
Yes, we announced in September last year a change in the management structure, and I was really keen for Kylie. Let me just take a step back. The company, as it rationalised some former mineral resources, and what rationalise is a polite word for take them out of the inventory, I felt my particular skill set more in terms of building projects, laying out strategy for exploration, but really around project building, wasn't necessarily the skill set, as the company needed to pivot increasingly towards making a new discovery. And Kylie's got a very sharp, wide-ranging discovery skill set. So bringing that sharp exploration skill set to Helix as a frontline executive manager, I thought would be really good for the company. And so Kylie and I worked out a 6-month transition plan. And so we're job sharing at the moment. And in a few weeks' time, I'll be stepping back altogether as a non-exec chair, but one that's there to support Kylie in her MD role, one that's there to do all the functions of a normal chair, but an active chair as well in terms of ongoing investor engagement and that kind of thing. So it's going to be a really exciting time as Kylie's already stepping into the role, very proactive, and we're on the cusp of this very exciting drilling program.
Listen, I've driven through the Cobar Basin a few times, and I can tell you I will absolutely be watching with keen interest what Helix Resources is working on. Mike, thank you very much for this conversation today. It's been great.
Shay, thank you for the opportunity. It's been great speaking with you. Watch out, a couple of weeks away. Let's see what sort of photographs we can bring out of those drill holes.